Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Reformer. I am so glad to have you here. The podcast has literally blown up in the last couple of weeks. So if you're new here, hello and welcome. And to those of you who've listened to us since week one, thank you so much for still being here, making us part of your weekly routine and telling your Pilates friends all about us. Today's conversation is with Ava Rodriguez, also known as the Joint Whisperer. She's a movement specialist, an educator, and the force behind Move Beyond with Ava. She helps teachers and fitness professionals level up by deeply integrating joint mobility principles into their work. Whether they're working with sticky shoulders, neck pain, or just wanting movement to feel better, safer, and more aware. In today's conversation, we dig into her sticky shoulders and neck pain programs, the Mobility Fitness Academy, and how she thinks many of the cues we all use could be due for an upgrade. If you've ever felt stuck in your movement, frustrated by tight joints, or just curious about what really underpins mobility training, this conversation is going to give you a lot. Ava, it is so amazing to have you on the podcast today. And you are in shores far away, is that right?
That is right. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to meet you and to finally be having this fabulous conversation we're about to have.
We've tried a few times, but yes, you're in Sydney. It's the nighttime there, so fair play. It's very, very late at night. I'm here in the afternoon in the UK. And we'll talk more, I'm sure, about the work you do, because part of the reason we've struggled to schedule this is the amount of different time zones you're in. So we'll definitely talk about all the travel that you do for the work you do. You've talked a lot about how cueing needs to evolve. Is there any one cue that you wish Pilates or movement teachers would stop using?
Well, many, but I'm going to choose the one that is about gliding the scapula down and lifting the arms overhead.
Why are you going to say that? Because I think if someone really understands their anatomy, that's not what happens. Am I right?
Absolutely. The thing is that I think the gap is that we learn the anatomy to teach a repertoire, whether it's Pilates, bar, yoga, it can be a movement, right? So we learn the bits that feeds into what we need to know in order to be successful in teaching it. Now, I would argue Pilates, because it's so holistic and such a powerful system, we take it one step further. Nevertheless, there are bits that, because anatomy, biomechanics, and physiology is so vast and is so big that it's hard to learn everything in one go. That's why continuing education is a thing. But when you understand how the body actually in correlation moves, then you will come to understand that some cues maybe were born to counteract the fact that most people do not have capacity in their shoulders, in their thoracic spine, hence why when they lift their arms above their head, they tend to bury their neck. And that's what we see. So the cue of slide your scapula, glide it down and lift your arm overhead, it meant to counteract this position, but in reality, it actually obstruct the natural movement of the scapula. Because if I ask you now, lift your arms above your head without thinking about it, many times just lift it up and down and tell me what your breath is doing, you're going to tell me you're taking a breath in when you're lifting your arms above your head. So why would you go against the natural flow of what's happening? Instead, what we need to understand, why is someone burying their neck when they lift their arms over their head? Where is the problem? What's not moving? And what do I need to solve it?
You make such a good point. I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail as the conversation goes on. Even if we take a beginner coming into us as a client, like you've got to give them a simple framework for them to understand. And it's no different from when you're trying to learn to be a teacher. Is that not? You kind of need to have it made somewhat simple to be able to have a grasp of what's going on. Because actually, what you've just explained has a lot of depth to it and takes time to explain and to understand and to embody. So we'll talk about how you're helping teachers with that. But I'd love to kind of go back and understand a little bit more about your background and how your interest in movement and mobility kind of took shape.
So when I started my journey in my early years, it was a Pilates diploma, so it was a clinical diploma. So musculoskeletal conditions were taught to us separately by a physio. So from the very start, I was sort of thrown into limitations and injuries and problem solving. And on top of that, I had my own lingering injury. And when you have pain, you stop and you pay attention. That's when you pay attention, and there's nowhere to hide. It alters movement, it affects everything that you do on a daily basis. So I understood very early on that no system on its own is going to be complete. We need diversity. And the $1 million question is, what do I not know? For that, you need to keep one eye and one ear open at all times. And it's a journey, like you say. You have to layer, you learn through teaching, but you also have to understand where your gaps are so that you can start filling them out. So my journey started with my own injury, me trying to solve that problem, because I know that when I can't solve a problem, I'm missing knowledge. So that's what set me off to be who I am today, really.
When did you first discover Pilates?
Oh my gosh, I discovered Pilates in my early 20s. And I remember I had a video, when there was like videos and you did it on the mat at home in your living room. And what had me hooked is that the precision and the care it requires, I do everything with care. And Pilates requires it. Like if you're thinking about something else, you're going to face plant. It just doesn't work. So that's what had me hooked. The complexity of it, I'm attracted to complexity. And I'm attracted to take something that's complex and learn the ins and outs of it. My mom tells me that as a child, I used to behead my dolls. So to take their heads off to understand how they were functioning, because my auntie used to travel and bring me dolls that would, you remember them when you press something, it would say, Mama, or you give them a bottle of water and they will pee. And I needed to understand, how is this happening? So the complexity of it, the precision of it is what attracted me.
Where did you grow up?
In Stockholm, in Sweden.
In Stockholm. So were there studios around there? Like what were you doing, in your life at that point when you discovered Pilates? Did you work?
I was studying something completely different.
Same. I was thinking it's interesting to go on a windy road on your path.
Absolutely. But also everything that you learn, we all are an accumulation of everything we've been exposed to. And looking back now, it makes sense to everyone that's ever known me as very young that I will become a mentor. Because even as a kid, my mom tells me the stories, my aunties and my cousins, I will gather everyone. I'm like, guys, listen, I discovered this. This is what we're going to do. You're going to do this and you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. Sharing knowledge has always been part of who I am. I just never looked at it as I could be a mentor, if that makes sense, because I feel like mentor is something you have to earn. It's not something that you can just allocate to yourself. It's a title that's given to you. It's not a title you claim. That's how I see it.
So you did your teacher training because you were interested in Pilates. Where did that then take you from getting that qualification?
So that qualification taught me a lot, to be honest with you. And I've never shared this publicly before, but I never taken a workshop in Pilates after taking my diploma. For two reasons. One, because my diploma was so solid. It took me a year to complete it. We had to clock close to 900 hours, but I clocked 1800 hours. So the depth of it, and because I had practiced it before I came to become a Pilates teacher, I could spend most of the time to actually understand the anatomy that goes into teaching it, instead of worrying about learning the exercises themselves, which was an advantage. But with time, I have a very multifaceted background, and every qualification that I ever took was for me to understand this vessel that we're trying to teach, that we're trying to maintain functional. How can we do that? We all, at the end of the day, the reason we should be working out is to not break a hip when we're 80, not be scared to just walk from here to our mailbox because we're frightened to fall and break something. To be a good problem solver, you need diversity in your tools, like everything else in life. And I guess my own injury, the curiosity is what set me off to then qualify in different disciplines to see how better I can serve the people that trust me.
And what was your first kind of job then as a movement instructor? Was it for a studio? Did you start working by yourself? Were you still in Stockholm? Did you move at that point?
No, I lived in London. I lived in London for 15 years. That's where I had my daughters. My husband says that's where we became adults. And I was working for a studio where anyone and everyone that came in had a problem. Same as today, right? We're faced with problems as I always say, as teachers, we're detectives. We need to be good detectives because people walk in and say, I can't squat and lunge, my knees won't let me, or I sustained this injury, I had a car accident, or I have a Parkinson's, or it could be I have a double hip replacement. It could be anything and everything. Even when it's on a lower scale, everybody has limitations. The question is, do they bother you so that you have clocked them, or are you not there yet? My first ever client had actually a double hip replacement. Talk about freaking out.
Well, this is what happens, isn't it? No matter how good your training is, I always think that when you get met with real people and real problems, that's when the learning really begins. And you're like, A, what have I learned that's going to help this? But B, like the clients have to help lead you with that. I always say to my clients, we're in this together. We're working on this together. We're figuring this out together. Like, I'm sure you agree. Like, I feel like the clients have taught me more than anything because you're figuring things out with them. And so, how long did you work in that studio? Was that your whole time in London?
No, I worked in that studio for approximately 4 years. And then I started taking on private clients. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew. And it changed and it evolved like anything else. Nothing is linear. And I started doing workshops. This was before Instagram, working with the physio. And somewhere along the way, she said to me, Ava, you're really good at making something complex simple. And that's a gift because at the end of the day, it's not just about the information or the education, it's also how it's handed to us. And looking back now, thinking that I've walked out of more seminars than I can count, I fully agree. I've could endorse every education that I've ever taken, but most of the time I had to sit down and figure them out on my own. And to this day, I don't know what I don't know. So who knows how much of it I have still not figured out yet. And I understand it's a journey and that's okay. But I wanted to do that differently for my community. Every person that ever walks into my seminar walk out with clarity and feeling empowered and being handed tools that they can see tangible results fast. Because when you're a working professional, you don't have 80% of your time to allocate to studying. So how our education is given to you matters.
Because sometimes you can go on these courses and they open your eyes up, but you think, I have no idea what to do with this information now. So it's great for you to say, yeah, exactly that. What gaps did you notice then in the Pilates world? It might be in the movement world more generally, in the education of that made you want to go deeper into mobility specifically?
I guess, look, I think what the gaps that we have is that we are not given all the tools we need to be good problem solvers. And I understand why, because it's overload of information. If you're going to, then you have to sit at university for 10 years. That's what you need to do. And most of us might not want to do that. Not everybody wants to do that. And that's okay. So how do we bridge that gap? I love Pilates. I mean, I'm a level 4 strength and conditioning coach. I'm a manual therapist. I'm many, many things. And I think all of them are important and they have their place. But I adore Pilates. And I also understand, like we can see now in our industry, that we're bringing in many modalities and marrying them together because we don't have time. Who has 1,000 hours a week to cater to the joints and then the neurology and then do Pilates and then do strength training and then also maybe be a parent and run a business and also be a friend and have some self-time? I mean, it's ludicrous. It just doesn't work. So therefore, we're marrying things. The downside of that could be that because it's an unregulated industry, we don't have anyone that holds us accountable. We can do whatever we want. It's like the Wild Wild West, and we can get away with it. So for me, the gap that I'm trying to gap is that what wasn't handed to us. How can we see beyond what the eyes can measure? So beneath the surface, beyond the muscles, what's not moving? What's blocked? Why is the nervous system guarding it like the gates of Mordor? And how can you have the key to unlock that so that you can spend less time trying to find alternative ways to get people to move around their pain points? And that's what I'm trying to fill.
So is this what then led you into the Mobility Fitness Academy? Is that what came next?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. What is that certification and who's it designed for?
In reality, it's designed for every movement practitioner. But then time teaches you that when you create a business, you're like, I'm for everyone. And the world is like, not so much, girl, not so much. And of course, anyone that's working with someone that have joints are going to need it, whether they like it or not. But the thing is that we all attract our tribe. I learned from my journey of traveling and meeting so many different cultures and people and studios and instructors is that some people don't like change. They like comfort. And it takes them longer to realize that whether you like change or not, it's going to happen. And if there are tools that make your life simpler, that allows you to teach at a higher level, why wouldn't you want them? It's not a matter of this or that. Nothing is mutually exclusive. It's a matter of opening the eyes, learning more, having more tools so that you can become better problem solver. I always say in my seminars, if you want to bake a chocolate cake and you use tuna instead of chocolate, you might love tuna. I love tuna, but it ain't gonna taste like chocolate. So you need to understand which tool do I need to use when, because that saves you time and it retains your clients because you're solving their problems. No matter how much someone loves us, when you can't help them with something, they have to leave. They have to go somewhere. That's just how it works.
So talk to me about the certification itself then. What does that entail? What does it look like? How long is it?
So it's a 16-hour seminar. I divided it in in-house and tutorials because I've taken into account how we learn best. You can do a seminar on 10 hours, 15 hours. Like you said, you're going to go and you're going to go, yes, that was like amazing. And then a week later, you go, now what? So what is mama supposed to do with all these tools? So therefore, just taking that into account, because it happened to me so many times, I divided it. I divided it so that when we meet, we learn the why, the when, the how, the concept, the bits that opens your eyes, the bits that you can't actually measure on socials or when I tell you, but the things that gives you clarity to go, wow, it gives you understanding to why these moments happen, how to look for them, what do they mean, and what can you do about it. And then post seminar is where we learn the programming, the integration. And my community knows, look, I never had sisters. I always want to have sisters. Maybe that's why universe gave me 2 daughters. So treat my tribe as my sisters because I really, really care about their wins. It makes me happy to see that they can open their own businesses, be featured, go on podcasts, and just soar because we all show up so much. And you know this, regardless of how we feel, when we come to our clients, it's face on positivity. How can I give, and give? I want to be able to support them so that they can succeed.
Who's coming on these seminars?
Mostly majority Pilates teachers and physiotherapists, because in Australia, even in Brazil, like in many places, we have now physiotherapists that also become Pilates teachers because, first is I'm a manual-therapist, right? We downregulate the nervous system, we make them feel less threatened in the body, and then we know that movement is what is going to allow you to heal and move beyond. So that's my primary audience. And then my secondary audience will be personal trainers, especially when they realize that I'm a level 4 strength and conditioning coach. Then they go, okay, she understands loading and law of progressive overload and law of specificity, etc. We're a fragmented industry, right? We still speak in silos and everybody's like in their own chambers. I mean, when I started out, there was even lack of respect. Maybe to some extent we have that today too, that we don't understand that we need to learn from each other. None of us are going to be superior. That arrogance and that sense of superiority for me often comes from insecurity because we don't understand the other side. And we need to be curious enough to understand that.
You've said that the Mobility Fitness Academy replaces outdated cues with science based strategies. Could you give me some examples of what that might look like?
Yeah, because I teach you to understand how the body functions in general beyond teaching exercises, that's going to take away those cues off your plate because you will understand that these cueing, they don't work. And why do they not work? And the thing is that with cueing is that we hear, like when you go to classes, you get inspired by someone that teaches really well, and then you just go and then you use their lingo because you're inspired. It's a compliment to that instructor. But there's a difference between I'm cueing you beautifully and all flowing versus it actually biomechanically makes sense and I'm not confusing you. Like for instance, lift your leg but don't use your hip flexors. What do you mean? I'm flexing my hip. And when you're a client, obviously what we're trying to say is that we want you to bring your attention, because Pilates teaches you to use your core, to work from your core. Take your extremities before you move them. You need to stabilize your spine. But you can't say these things to someone that doesn't even know the difference between their hamstrings and their quads. They're coming out of work, they're stressed, man. They have an hour, they want to feel better. Make life simpler. So for us to make them succeed, we need to first understand biomechanically what is happening in the body. That alone on itself would take away all the cues that you don't actually need because now you understand things you didn't do before. I remember something I'm going to share with you. So I've done many cadavers, and one of them was about the core. And I remember vividly at rib 7, when the anatomist cuts, there is no difference between the TVA, the internal abdominal oblique, and the diaphragm. The one tissue, unless your anatomist is so skillful that when she layers it, she shows it to you. That's shocking, right? So you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay. And my anatomist said to me, why do you think this would happen? I don't know. Nobody knows. And she explained, well, because your TVA and IAO responds to your diaphragm. That means that how well you can expand and compress your ribcage dictates how well they fire. In that moment in time, I'm looking up and thinking to myself, so does that mean a lot of the exercises that I was taught targets that, doesn't target that? Or does that mean, you see, that sets you off?
If you've ever been lucky enough to go and do anatomy trainings where they let you do like cadaver work, it just blows your mind because I mean, really, the whole body's like one sheet, really, it feels like. And this idea, we kind of created these muscles. We gave them colors in a book and a start and an end. And in reality, just the way that we move, the way that we work, and it's something that comes up in my teacher training a lot is you have to have enough understanding of what's actually really happening so you can cue it in a way that's working with somebody and how they're moving as opposed to going against it because that's the more simplistic way to cue it. So whilst I understand why people are taught these simple cues like engage your core, that is not helpful because that doesn't do what you're trying to do, which is yes, you are trying to stabilize that system, but engaging it doesn't. Cueing muscles also doesn't. You've chopped up bodies, and I bet you still couldn't isolate this specific muscle because our brains just don't work like that. So it must be really interesting for you. Like, I know when I talk to students like this, it blows their minds. You're going to be working with teachers might have been teachers for a long time. Is that something you're coming across?
A few things that unanimously happens in my seminars. The first 15 minutes in, that's my favorite moment, is when everything goes silent. It almost like no, everybody stops breathing. And they're looking at me, and there's always someone that pulls their hair out, pulls up the sleeve, and go, okay, go. Start taking notes. And they go, wow, okay. And I always say, I'm a straight shooter. I like to set the stage. And when I walk in, I say to them, look, you all are amazing instructors. You all care. You all have done your hours, your work. You're here because you know there's something missing, but you don't know what, right? So there's no question that you care. And that goes a long way. Because when you care, you finally find answers. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw some monkey wrenches in here, and I'm going to explain every single one of them. If there is ever my opinion, I will make sure I make that clear, because there's a difference between I have my opinions like every other human, but I will make it clear that it's my opinion and not the science. If you don't understand, you're more than welcome to question me here and now, but you're going to have to unlearn in order to relearn. And if you cannot do that, you will never evolve. So it's your choice. That I always say.
The point about as well being clear on, there are things that are our opinions because we still don't know. But sometimes people are passing things as opinions as science and it's not. And so sometimes I'm saying, this isn't the gospel according to Nick. This is the science. This is just the facts. This isn't a Pilates school way of thinking. It's just like, if you understand the anatomy, this is what's happening. And tell me about sticky shoulders. Why are the neck and shoulder often so misunderstood, in your opinion?
Because there's a law of order and we don't know it because they didn't teach us. Look, when I became a manual therapist, I was in Brazil recently. That was the last convention I was at before I'm going to Dubai now. And in Brazil, historically, you have to be a physiotherapist before you become a Pilates teacher. So majority of them who are sitting on the floor, they are manual therapists. And so they know that when you become a manual therapist, they teach you like the shoulder should have 120 degrees of range of motion, the hip, blah, blah, blah. You test it like this. And they're all going, yes, yes, yes. And then I go, so what does that tell you about their motor control? And everybody goes quiet. Maybe because their prerequisites are slightly higher, so they catch on it quicker. But with the sticky shoulder and the neck pain and back pain is like normal. It's so common, it has become normal. Everybody's like, it's okay, like I handle it. It's just there. I know neck pain up close and personal, clicking sticky shoulders up close and personal. Maybe that's why that was my first ever teacher training and that I put out in the world as my gift to the world. But where the pain is seldom where the problem is. And that's why the puzzle is so hard to crack. There are too many joints involved in this area. You're talking 6 ranges of motion, your scapula, you got your shoulder, you got your thoracic spine. Obviously the neck goes in there, the diaphragm. So the complexity, you got the clavicle, the complexity is high. 2, we don't have tools to be able to measure what's not moving beyond what we see. And that's why I often say, if you're measuring how good your mobility is through your squats and depth of your squat and lunges, you're not reading the right map. I'm really sorry. I am never the girl who's going to say, this is not good, this is good, you should only do this or you should only do that, because I don't believe in those things. The more you know, you realize you don't know anything. Everything is great, everything has its place, but I'm the girl who wants to empower people to understand the outcome of the tools they apply. So you're not wasting time. So that you know when you use your chocolate, when you use your tuna, when you use the salt, and when you use the sugar, so that your programming is on point, your results are on point, and when you know it's outside of your scope of practice, you refer out. You're not wasting time.
As someone who also had, incredible amount of neck and shoulder pain, and had to learn so much to heal it, and was very shut down by the medical profession. Like you said, I think there's definitely people out there. There's this belief that this is just who I am, this is how it is. And I'm passionate about saying, no, you can get yourself out of this. It might take a decent amount of time. You're not going to do it in 3 sessions. You might be here for 5 years, but it's possible. And, I'm proof of it. You're proof of it. The understanding is there, isn't it? And I love what you said as well about, just because your pain is there doesn't mean that's what's causing it. And I think this is where Pilates is so powerful. If you're the sort of teacher who was taught to teach in that holistic way, if we get all of your body more balanced, then inevitably we will help the thing that isn't feeling balanced, even if we don't have a massive in-depth knowledge at this point. So I really try and educate. If someone comes in with, sore shoulders, go somewhere else. Where have you got access right now just to create some space and ease? But then, with courses like yours, once you learn about that system and how, you're right, it's very complex. And then how can we help use movement to educate it, to move better, to have better biodynamics, to integrate better with the body. That must be very empowering for those teachers leaving your course to be able to then take that knowledge in. Because I know my knowledge, I feel like I'm the net queen as well, but I had to learn it myself. So it must be amazing for those people who do those seminars with you to take that back, because that's going to be so powerful for the clients they're helping, because it's such a common problem out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, look, as an educator, nothing fills your cup more when someone comes back and says, Ava, you changed my life. I mean, it brings me tears. Look, to me, I take being teachers very seriously, because I think that we live in a world, one, we operate in an unregulated industry. You wake up, someone crown themselves a specialist of God knows what because they feel like they deserve it. Okay. Two, because we have so much noise now, so much noise. And we have a lot of good education out there too. But it's not always easy to understand the outcome of the educations you're going to invest in, because everybody promises the same thing, because there's no accountability. So you can go to many things and they all promise you that you're going to have buttery. I mean, I see it on the socials all the time. I open it up and they say, if you do these 3 exercises, it's going to unlock your hips. I'm like, really? And then my MFA community, they send me stuff and they're like, look at this. They don't understand. And they're getting upset, and I go, it's okay, guys. It's okay.
But I remember a few years ago, someone, I think probably COVID or around that time, being like, Nick, exactly that. Can you do me a social post, 3 moves for back pain? I was like, no, no, I'm not being part of that brigade, because I remember being the person in pain who didn't have this knowledge. I wasn't a teacher. And then you're led to believe as a client, aren't you? Or just as a person, you're not even a client at this point, that the problem is that simple. And annoyingly, it kind of is a simple solution in one sense. Like there are easy ways to do it, but it's not short-sighted and it's not one size fits all, is it?
The simplicity is that we have the knowledge to empower you on knowing which steps to take. So you don't have to take 3 steps forward, 5 steps back. That's where the simplicity is, so that there is a road, there is a blueprint, there is a sequence, there is a framework to follow. It takes the guesswork out, but it's not simple in terms of biology. I mean, if you learn the law of adaptation, that's why I love to work with dancers. They never ever question that you have to do the same thing until death, because that's the choreography of dance. Otherwise, your body doesn't adapt. This is how it works. If it was that easy, you and I will be out of job. We could go sing Kumbaya drinking pina coladas on the beach somewhere, or just get a new job, because it's not that easy. If it was, why is then we see neck pain, knees don't work, back pain, and everybody's complaining and turning into tin mans if it was that easy?
So what's your philosophy on helping teachers learn to assess joints and not just stretch them, and not understand that restrictions are about stretching? So the assessment is a part of it, isn't it? But also then how they approach it.
Yeah, the assessment is part of it. And I hand them a framework to follow. I take the guesswork out for them. So that's why they are so successful so fast. And wherever they need support, I give them support. But I'm going to share with you what I share with them. To be successful in unlocking joints or strengthening muscles or doing anything that has to do with our physicality, first and foremost, we must understand the role of the nervous system, and the hardest bit, to read the output of the nervous system. That took me years, not just to understand, to actually put into context and be able to measure. And I'm still going, because it's a very complex subject. We don't know as much as we think about it. It's new, and now it's the hot topic, right? So you see it everywhere. But it's too complex, because that's what sets us apart. That's why our, like you said beautifully in the beginning, our clients have to guide us, because you and I can use the same tools for 3 different people. The reactions are very different. So you have to be able to read the output of the nervous system, interpret it to understand where to go next. And that's something that has to happen all the time. Before understanding that, you can't unlock anything. You can't earn anything. You can, because you start at the beginning. You know how it is. Like, you expose your body to something new, you're going to see benefits. But 6 months down the line, a year down the line, everybody's in a plateau. That's what sets you apart then. Where's your knowledge now? Because that shows you, are you moving beyond, or are you just going through the same sequence for life? Which is happens all the time. I see it with teachers all the time as well. You just basically redecorating what you know over and over and over and over again, but the results are not there anymore.
And even before that, is what you're talking about, is it also when, 'cause I've had this happen in my body, we've released something in my body on paper. It's a great thing that this is now moving very well. And the next day you wake up and holy moly, it's like your nervous system is like, I do not want to go there. I think over here is a much better place to be. I've definitely had that in my body happen. And, you have to try and ease it out. But teachers can feel like they've done something wrong. And I guess it's having the confidence to realize they haven't. But is this part of it? Is that your nervous system feeding back at you?
Yes, it puts you in jail. We joke about it in MFA. It puts you in jail. It puts you in jail, and now you have to understand, why is she putting me in jail? Where do I go? How do I pivot? And maybe the input you put in there. So I had actually, this is a good fresh example in my mind because it happened a few days ago. I had one of my graduates, she lives in Michigan, and she WhatsApped me and said, Ava, I had a client. I did this sequence with her, and then her body didn't like it. And obviously she's panicking, right? And her name is Jennifer. And I said to her, Jen, take a breath. Let's jump on a call. This is not a moment we go back and forth with messages. Let's call. Okay, thank you. And then I called her and I said, walk me through the scenario. And long story short, I said to her, you have to now understand why her nervous system put her in jail. She put her in jail. I'm going to give you some strategies to try, but I'm also going to tell you as a teacher, you need to calm down. You are not a magician. You cannot foresee time. I can't foresee time. No one can. But an educated instructor understands that, okay, your body didn't like it. It's okay. We're going to pivot, but you need to know where to pivot. That next step matters. Being able to read that, because you're going to have to go back to where jail is and see if she's out of jail, and you can grab her now to push her into another sequence so that she can actually progress. And that can be scary when you don't have clarity, when you don't understand, because we panic, right? If you flare up someone's pain, you're like, not only are they in jail, you put yourself in jail too, because you're thinking, I'm never going to do that again. So you stop pampering them. But pampering someone, it's all nice and good, but it's not going to solve nobody's problems. Let me tell you that.
It's interesting. I know it's not the same thing because you're talking about someone's pain being exasperated or brought back, but I find it fascinating that if someone went and did a kettlebells class, for example, they would think it's fabulous that they couldn't walk up the stairs the next day. They'd make a joke of it. They think it's brilliant. They come to a Pilates, especially maybe a class, but even a private sometimes. And if they have the slightest ache or pain, you get clients that can be like, you've hurt me. I feel in pain the next day. I just find this quite fascinating. But I wondered, like, when you're working with clients on their mobility, knowing that jail is a possibility, I'm gonna steal that from you. Are there things that you do? Like, I always think if you go to the osteopath, for example, they say to you at the end of your first session, you might wake up tomorrow and feel absolutely rotten. Just so you know, that's normal. It will calm down. They kind of manage your expectations. Just wonder for teachers out there, like, do we as teachers, should we be thinking about helping manage some expectations when we're doing some of this mobility work?
Absolutely. I do that all the time. I set the stage very fast and clear, because one is also because I'm very confident in what I do, right? I've been doing this for a very long time. So that helps. Like you said, when you learn from your clients, you do your years and you peel your layers, and you come to a point that you are no longer a junior, and therefore you have a lot of proof of concept to pull from. So I set the stage very early on, depending on what injuries they come in, prerequisites, because I can read your nervous system quite fast. I'm also a manual so I have a lot of tricks in my books that allows me to read what's happening with you, your perception, not just the way you move, but your perception, your reaction to what the things that I'm giving you. So I set the stage quite fast. And if I notice that this could go 50-50, I would tell them. I said, it can go 50-50, but we have no other way to find out. So either you stay where you are in the pain you are, because people come to me for a reason, right? I'm not the teacher people come to just to like, I just want to move and count my pulses. You come to me with a very specific issue. So I say, either you stay where you are and you hope for the best, or you allow me to push you and see, did your body respond or not? Either way, I'm not gonna let you go. I got you, but we have to expect that there might be a setback. And then I explain to them why. So I never usually have the problem. No, nobody has ever come back to me and said, you hurt me. And I think, like you say, it's important because when people do kettlebells, they expect to not be able to walk the next day. The lingo of it's the burn and you're going to feel your thing, because we still live in a world where we think the burn, it's an indicator of a good workout. You're like, it's lactic acid, people, come on. Education a little bit better. Burn doesn't mean anything. And the fact that you can't walk up the stairs, your body has to now spend a lot of time that you don't see to actually repair and nurse rather than build. That's the trick with training. That's the also issue when we mix modalities without understanding being qualified in them. We are stepping into a realm we don't understand, so it can go south quite fast.
So talk to me about all the travel that you do. Are you traveling, running these seminars that you're talking about? You also have your online business. Explain to me what that dynamic looks like now for you.
So I both present and educate internationally multiple times a year. Like you said, I don't know which time zone I'm in myself. I should have been in the US right now. And the presentation is honestly more me giving back to community, getting more people to understand, because we all face the same pain points every day. You know, when people walk into a class and say, I can't squat and lunge anymore, how many times a week that does happen? Everyone's like, oh my God, I lost count. Oh, that's even me, right? Because we're humans too. And I say, okay, so what do you do with them? They're like, yeah, but we strengthen the glutes in different ways. Because as Pilates teachers, I would dare to claim we are the Lucky Luca fitness. Like we are the most creative. We have so much props. We're so holistic, and we have a million variations of getting you to do something, which is a skill. I mean, it's skill. Like it should be respected. But like anything and everything, squat and lunges are fundamental to humans. They're not optional. I'm sorry. So if someone can't squat and lunge anymore, and you give them 500 variations in the clam and the développés and the bridges or whatnot, fabulous. Keep doing them. But can they go back to squat and lunging? Everybody unanimously says, no. I'm like, okay, would you like me to give you keys that allows them to go back to squat and lunging, and then you can do bridges and développés too? Yes. Okay. Okay, let's do that then. Let's do that then. So that's what the conventions are for, and the education is the seminars. Yes, I host seminars internationally. I just signed my first master instructor. Nobody knows. I'm going to in the US. I'm going to reveal that now in November. So that's very exciting.
Amazing. And then are you online as well? Can people work with you online if they can't get to you in person?
Yes, yes, I do online seminars. I mean, I should have been in the US now, and I couldn't go there, so we jumped online. And we just did the seminar online, which, I mean, the advantage is that people can tune in from anywhere and everywhere because they're just too far away from where I hosting a seminar. The other advantage is that online you have time to digest it. It's easy on the brain because I divide it in 2 days, because who can stare at a computer for 5 hours, right? So that's the advantage with that. But I also do a lot in person. I come to London once a year. This year, actually, I'm coming twice, but it's for existing community. When I'm coming back now, I'm going to go in and out because it's going to be so cold. I'm probably going to die. Everybody's laughing at me. I can't do anything below 25.
Talk to me about, you go from you're a teacher, you have this passion, you're creating a product that has this richness. Like, it's been so great hearing that. But how do you take that and become the elevated person in our world that you are? Like, what does it take to get there, to kind of get your voice floating above and get yourself out there? How did that happen?
A lot of sacrifices, a lot of hard work. Well, when it comes to business, I think we all learn that even if you're that unicorn that happen to be good at every aspect of business, you're still one person. It is very easy to burn out very fast. Now, I'm a gear 5 kind of girl. I'm an Aries. I'm full of energy. It's just, it comes with the territory. And because I'm so passionate about what I do, it helps fuel the cause. But nevertheless, there's a lot of sacrifices. There's a lot of sacrifices. You have to be prepared. I think from the outside, a lot of people often think that running a business is very sexy. There's nothing sexy about running a business. Absolutely nothing sexy about running a business. You need to understand that there will be nights you don't sleep.
My laptop is on my like kitchen counter because like I'm always at work. And I love it. But you're right. Like you have to be careful because otherwise you do burn out. But you're absolutely right. Like it is part of your entire life. And you've got kids. And so when you talk about sacrifice, do you mean like just the hours you put in, or do you mean also like part of the growth that you've had is because you will go to events and get in front of people? Is that part of it as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, every moment you have to put yourself out there, you're sacrificing something, right? The question is, are you prepared to pay the price? It can be minor, it can be big, but those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And then we are all different. I was talking about this actually with someone that I know here that presents with me, and she's like, I can't do this. Like, it is too hard, not just because of family, but also energy wise. It drains you. I mean, think about just teaching. We can't punch at like 9 to 5. You're sitting in front of a computer doing things, right? It's draining. Now, presenting, it's even more draining than hosting seminars because now you're standing in front of a huge crowd. Some of them don't even know who you are. Some of them know who you are. Some of them are interested. Some of them are not interested. They're all very different, and you have to grab them and lead them. That's not an easy task at all. That's why I said in the beginning, mentor is something that is a title that you earn. Your community gives it to you. It's not something that you decide to wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to be a mentor. Mentor of what? You have to understand its depth. And yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice. And running a business, absolutely hard. It is very difficult. You have to ask for help. You have to be lucky enough to find good help. And you have to be lucky enough to find good people to collaborate with as well. That's also not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely. Ava, I could talk to you all day. Honestly, I had so many more questions, but I'm kind of aware of our time. And I want to end with a little quick fire section for the end. One cue you never use anymore.
I never cue the pelvic floor and I never cue the TVA or IO, things like that.
Best investment you've made in your own learning.
Ooh, stepping outside of fitness and learning movement science.
One trend in the Pilates world that you're loving right now.
That we are starting to realize that we need diversity.
What's one thing that you hope that every teacher rethinks after having our conversation today?
That there is more to movement than just learning one system.
Yeah, that's powerful. So tell me, if anyone's listening and they want to work with you, where's the best place to go to? And we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Go to my Instagram or shoot me an email to ava@movebeyondwithava.com.
Ava, I've really enjoyed our conversation. There's so much we could talk about. We started before we came on air, actually, we talked about how, and it's something that I've really loved. Like when I started this podcast, I thought of 10 episodes and 5 of them were people I knew, 5 of them were, and I'd met, and 5 were people that I knew, but I'd never met. And I thought this gives me an excuse to meet these people and have chats. And then as we've gone on, I'm having to do my research. The truth is, there are so many incredible people in the movement world and in the Pilates world, aren't there?
Absolutely. And these conversations are exactly how we elevate our community. These conversation is how we then come to a place where there are more collaborations. See, when you come from academia, we collaborate a lot. Nobody wants to put their name, we share. When you come into the fitness world, is all every man for themselves. This is why our growth stagnates. because we need to understand we need each other. We need each other. We need to collaborate because that's how we're going to reach more people. If the goal is to help people, then you have to collaborate for an audience. You have to add your value and my value because every single one of us have something that we can share and empower others with. And for that, we need each other.
Absolutely. I think the work we do as teachers is so incredible. And the stories you hear from clients, I mean, their lives get changed. My life got changed from this, and I'm passionate about doing that for others. But you're absolutely right. The only way you do that is if you understand that your certificate is like, right, I'm safe to teach, but I'm still an absolute newbie. And you go and you do continuing education. And I love what you said earlier. And I've said it myself. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't really know anything in the most powerful way. And so you leave your ego at home and be okay that you don't know stuff. But I wanted to do this podcast really to open people's eyes up to the depth and breadth of this world. And I mean, I learn so much every week from these conversations as well. And it's just been so lovely to hear people's, like you said, being part of this community and growing this community with us. But how long, I mean, you've been in this world now presenting for quite a long time. I was kind of surprised when I realized there wasn't a podcast like this at all. You think there would have been?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're looking so much forward to speaking with you. I think everything that you do is amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. And I'm sure you and I are going to have many, many more conversations because I can just feel that it's coming.
Ava, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for giving up your time in Sydney at like 10:30 at night. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Pleasure.
I really hope you've enjoyed today's conversation with Ava. There's something really refreshing about her approach. It's grounded in science, but delivered in a way that feels completely human and empowering. And I hope that gave you some extra tools for your Pilates toolbox. If there's anything in today's episode that sparked a thought or gave you a light bulb moment, I'd love to hear about it. Do come and join me over on Instagram at beyond_reformer_pod. And just let me know what landed for you. I really love hearing your comments. I read every one of them. And if you're enjoying this podcast, please make sure that you're following us because helping us grow our follows really does help me get in front of those big people in the Pilates world that I'm desperate for us all to have conversations with. Thanks so much for listening all the way to the end if you're still here. I'll see you next Monday with another episode with another fantastic guest.